Hi, my name is Rachel Paxton. Today I'm going to show you how to make homemade watermelon jelly. In this class I'll show you how to make and can watermelon jelly. I'll lead you through the process step by step. I'll give you the recipe and canning supply list you can download and print out for future reference. You'll also gain the confidence to try more canning recipes on your own. For this recipe you'll need 4 cups of chopped watermelon with the rind removed, 5 cups of sugar, half a cup of apple cider vinegar, 4 tablespoons of bottled lemon juice, and a box of powdered pectin. You'll need a boiling water canner, a canning rack if you're using your own stock pot, a jar lifter, a wide mouth funnel, and 4 pint-sized canning jars. This is what a boiling water canner looks like. You can get these at Walmart or online at Amazon. There's a link to this and the supply list in your course materials. They're about $30. They come with the whole kit for you to everything you need to get started to start making jam. This is what the canning rack looks like. It comes with your boiling water canner, but if you're wanting to use your own stock pot for a boiling water canner, you can if you have a canning rack like this in the bottom of it. This keeps the jars from sitting on the bottom of the pan so that they won't break. These cost about $10. You can order them separately. You can find a link to this in the supply list in your course materials. If you are going to use your own stock pot, just make sure that there's enough room in your pot to have an inch of water above your jars. Your jar lifter is for taking your jars in and out of the canner. A wide mouth funnel is for to make it easy to put your food in the jar. You want to fill your canner about 3/4 of the way full with water and heat it into boiling. Sterilize your jars, rings, and lids in the dishwasher. I use the dishwasher because it's easier. The only other way to sterilize them is to put them in boiling water on the stove, and that takes a lot of room on your stove. It's easier to do it in the dishwasher. Just let them sit in the dishwasher till you're ready to use them. You can reuse your jars and rings, but you can't reuse the lids. You need to have new lids every time. They're very inexpensive, and I always try to have extra on hand so I don't run out. First, you want to chop the watermelon to make 4 cups of watermelon. I used a immersion blender to mix mine up, but you can mash it with a potato masher. There's a couple different ways you can do this. The one that I made, I guess, is more technically a jam than a jelly because it was a little bit thicker. Jelly is a clear liquid, and mine isn't totally clear because I didn't strain the little pieces of watermelon out of it. So if you don't want to go to the trouble to strain the juice out of it, then if you just mix this up, then you're going to want to have 4 cups of your watermelon that looks like this, blended up in the blender. You can put it in a blender also if you don't have an immersion blender. But if you want a clear liquid, then you're going to put it through a jelly bag. This isn't watermelon, but this is what the jelly bag looks like. There's a link to this in your course materials. They're less than $10, and if you're going to make any kind of jelly, this is what you want to strain your liquid out of your fruit so that you have a clear liquid. So if you're wanting to make a clear jelly, then you would place that watermelon puree in this bag, and then the liquid would run out into the bottom, and then you'd have your clear liquid. So out of that 4 cups of puree, you want to end up with 2 cups of watermelon juice. So I made more jam than that. That's why there's more than 2 cups in there. So you only actually need 2 cups of juice. So your 4 cups of chopped up watermelon ends up being 2 cups of watermelon juice. And if you used the jelly bag to juice it, if you don't end up with quite 2 cups, you can add a little water to it to get to the 2 cups. So when you're making jams and jellies, it's very important that you use exact measurements, or your jam or jelly will not set and it won't turn out. So make sure that you have 2 cups of watermelon juice. Place your watermelon juice, vinegar, lemon juice, and pectin in a large saucepan and bring it to a boil. Add the sugar all at one time. It's important that you get the right amount of sugar in there, so I measure it and pour it in all at one time. Bring it to a boil again and boil it and you want it to boil so that when you stir it, it doesn't stop boiling. So bring to a boil that can't be stirred down, and boil for 1 minute. If you have any foam on the top, you want to skim it off with a metal spoon. And then ladle the jelly into your sterilized jars. As you can see, even though I left some of the pulp in mine, it's still very thin. It does not have big chunks of fruit in it. So you could argue whether this is jelly or jam or not, but it is pretty thin liquid. It's just not totally clear. And you want to leave a 1/4 inch headspace. The headspace is the amount of space between the top of the jelly and the top of the jar. It's important to have the right amount of headspace. This food does not expand very much in the boiling water canner. That's why it's only 1/4 inch. But just make sure that whatever your recipe calls for, that you leave the correct amount of headspace so that your food has room to expand when it's heated. You want to wipe the rims of the jars with a damp paper towel or dish towel so that you get a good seal on your jars. And place the rings and lids on the jars finger tight. Process your jars in a boiling water canner for 10 minutes. Make sure there's an inch of water above your jars. The water doesn't have to be boiling when you put the jars in, but it does need to be boiling before you start your timer. If you live above 1,000 feet in elevation, you need to increase your processing time. There's an altitude adjustment chart in your course materials if you need to check that for your processing time. Use your jar lifter to remove the jars from the canner and set them on the kitchen counter to cool. When the jars seal, you'll hear a pinging noise. They will sometimes seal in the canner, and sometimes they take a little longer to seal until after you take them out. So don't worry about if they're sealed or not until they cool off. You can tell if they're sealed or not by pushing your finger down in the middle of the lid. If they go down and up again, then it is not sealed, but if it's flat, it is sealed. And the sealed ones you can store for 1 to 2 years or more. If you have a jar that doesn't seal, then just place it in the refrigerator and eat it in the next couple of weeks. You do need to note that with jelly, that your jelly doesn't always set right away. It is still pretty runny when you take it out of the boiling water canner, so don't shake your jars around too much. You want to set them on the counter until they're completely cooled. And for jelly, you don't want to mess with them for a couple of days even, because it can take up to a week for your jelly to set completely. So if it's a little runnier than you'd like, don't worry about it. Let it set for 3 or 4 days at least before you decide if it is runny or not, because it can take a while for it to set. So this watermelon jelly is a little bit different. It's pretty sweet, and it does taste like watermelon. I can't say it's my favorite jelly in the whole world, but it is good, and it would be a fun treat to give to people at Christmas time if you like to make homemade Christmas presents. So give it a try and see what you think.